Hi, Mr. Shridhar. Very good morning to you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah. How are you, Mr. Shridhar?
Well, I'm as good as can be. Quite
So we
excited
have,
that the books are going to be launched early next month.
mm, yeah. So we have already spoken before this. I have hosted Mr. Shridhar for his previous book, which is on ills and crime. And today we are doing the second session with Mr. Shridhar. Today we'll be talking about the story revolving around this amazing plot based in Kushinagar, if I'm not wrong. So, Mr. Sridhar, tell us something. What inspired you to write the story centered around slum like Kushinagar?
See, the title of the book is Dark Secrets of Kushinagar. Now, why did I write the story centered around the slums? I find that very little is written, in that genre. Hardly anybody writes, especially not the Indo-Anglian writers. Not their fault, they don't have an exposure to slums. I got an exposure to slums because I used to do a lot of community work in the slums near my house at one point in time. And I just
Mm,
felt that the the English speaking or the audience, English speaking readers, the upper middle classes, etc., should have a fair idea what is happening in the slums. I
yeah.
mean, there is a total misconception in their minds about the slum. The slums are dirty, the slums are filthy, the slum dwellers are bad. That's far from the truth. I mean, even in the poshest of buildings and in the poshest of areas, you get your rotten apples. So also in the slums. And I just felt that I needed to write about it because in regional literature, yes, a lot of novels and a lot of stories are set in the slums and they talk about life in the slums, but not in English. I mean, one classic example, I think that book got an award later, was Jaivan Dalvi's book Chakra. It revolves around a slum. And it was translated into English and it became highly popular among the audiences. But I'm talking about 30, 40 years ago. And I'm sure things haven't changed too much now because people want to know what's happening. So I
Yeah.
decided that, and here was something exposing in front of me, something unfolding in front of me. I mean, I was to go into the slums. Apart from my work, I used to observe a lot of things, listen, interact socially with a lot of people there, and hear a lot of things, see a lot of things, which I felt I needed to weave into an interesting plot so that people have some idea what's happening in a slum. Because remember one thing, slums are often condemned by the elite, but at the same time, they are totally dependent on the slums. I mean, take all these posh buildings. You find a slum in the background, in the backyard, and people are complaining. But their cooks, drivers, maid servants, watchmen, milkmen, vegetable vendors, bread vendors, newspaper dealers, all newspaper vendors, sorry, all come from the slums. If the slums are demolished and those people are removed and sent to the distant suburbs, these people's life will come to a standstill. And I think people should be aware of that.
Mr. Sridhar, maybe I am wrong. Correct me if I am wrong. I feel not that I have had an exposure to the slums, but I have a feeling that people living in the slums, despite having talent and potential in them, feel a little insecure. Maybe due to the uh, oppression that they have faced in the past from the elite society, and this insecurity of them comes in the form of resentment and the rowdy behavior which can be seen.
Harsh, what you said would have been typically true of a slum, say 40 years ago. Not with the succeeding generations, because slum dwellers are getting educated. They're educating their children. So that kind of complex is now moving out. I mean, there are people in the slums, children who live in the slums who study there, who end up getting good jobs. I mean, who study well. Like a classic example I can give you is a boy from the slum where I used to do community work. I mean, he studied his Bachelor of Mass Media, got a first class, and today is working as a media manager in a leading advertising agency. And a lot of these people are now educated. Of course, many of them cannot do college, so then they stop at 12. But that education has changed their outlook. And this rowdy behavior that you talk about, every slum dweller is not rowdy. Every
No,
slum
definitely
pocket
not. Yeah,
has its rowdy elements with gundas. But then don't other urban areas also have antisocial elements? I mean,
definitely.
you have that group everywhere. So you can't just say that all slum dwellers are rowdy. They are not.
Yeah. Also, there is a little irony in the story. The name Kushinagar represents a very happy and joyous plot, but then the plot is actually very negative. There are scenes related to murder, rape, and other crimes. So why this irony?
See, Kushinagar means an area of joy, a pocket of joy, whatever you'd like to call it.
Yeah,
Secondly, negative is a wrong word to use. I strongly object to that. I mean, I don't know if you've read the novel, but if you have, the full novel does not deal with rape and murder. I mean, there are
yeah.
instances of
There
rape,
are.
there are instances of
Hmm,
assault, there are instances, more than one, of violence, but at the same time, there is a good side to the slums which are brought out. So that is one. So saying that on rape and murders only happen in the slums would be wrong. More rapes and murders happen in the posh areas. And then you have people having candlelight vigils or protests. Here, these things go unnoticed. So that is
hmm.
just a part of the life there. But there is also the good side to it. There is a superb bonding between people, irrespective of caste, creed, or community. Then they all help each other when it comes to the welfare of the slum or to the for the benefit of the slum. The entire community joins hands, something which I've not seen in urban areas to that extent. So
This
there
is
is
something
definitely
I
a
can
very
vouch
good
for.
side.
Yeah, this is
Sorry?
something I can vouch for. I have seen this kind of unity in people coming from these backgrounds, and definitely it can't be seen in the elite society.
Yeah, and one more thing, why the title Kushinagar? See, these things are this rape and crime that I talked about are stray incidents that I mentioned. And they happen. Wherever there's a crowd of people, wherever there are, young boys and young girls, all this is bound to happen, eloping, all that. But one thing, let me tell you, these people are, many of them are, you can call from the deprived section of society, the have-nots. So now with the younger generation getting educated, this may change. But they are always contented. I mean, that is what struck me when I first started going into the slums. They are happy with what they have. They're very contented. They'll never crib, they'll never complain. Unlike the well-to-do people who are always cribbing, that this is a problem, that is a problem, there's no water today. I mean, here, if you read the novel, you'll see how much the people have to struggle to get that daily quota of water. Whereas, here 1 day or half an hour water supply is cut and you'll have the entire building complaining. So they're very contented, and I think this is something we need to learn from them, how to be satisfied with what you have. They don't have things like jealousy of neighbors, they don't have things like competition. Like he has a 25,000 rupee worth fridge, so I should buy a 35,000 worth fridge. Nothing like that. They are very happy with what they have. That is a very important pointer which I want to highlight, and that is what sort of influenced me or motivated me, whatever you say, to give that title Kushinagar.
So this is one side of the story where we learn how to be contented and be happy with what we have. What do you want to portray when you wrote about the crimes which happen in the plot? Like,
I mean, these things do happen, but also important is the way that the people deal with them.
hmm.
I mean, they may not make a hue and cry about it, they may not make a noise about it, but they deal with them. How they deal with them. I mean, that's something that I want to portray. And again, in every society, there is crime. I mean, there is crime, there are all these things happening, but it's a question of how you deal with them. I mean, I can't write a story about a slum where I don't mention these things because these things happen. At the same time, I can't write a story about a slum where I don't mention the good things, the harmony, the bonding, because that also happens. So,
Yeah.
I mean, basically, as I said, and I repeat, one has to deal with them, and that's what is important and what one can learn from them.
So uh, this TV serial which is very popular, Tarak Mehta Ka Ulta Chashma, uh, the book which it is based on is also revolving around the similar plot. Not that it revolves around a slum, it revolves around a society, but the plot is kind of same. Is that true?
I wouldn't know because I haven't read that book, nor have I seen the serial. In which language is the book written?
Okay, that's very rare. Someone not seeing Tarak Mehta ka Ulta Chashma. That's
Bharat,
completely
what?
okay. Tarak Mehta ka Ulta Chashma.
No, I haven't seen that serial. Not, I mean, so I
That's
really
very
can't.
strange. It's out there.
I mean,
One of the most popular serials we have, and
yeah,
like,
but who has the
okay,
time to watch those? And
yeah,
and because it's strange, I mean, the novel will become even more stranger, and it should interest people even more.
yeah, that's definitely something I can vouch for. So, I have never heard a male called Nidhi, but the book mentions a male called Nidhi. I was in the first place, I was confused. I confused it to a lady.
Well, Nidhi is normally the short form of a longer name. You have the chief minister of Tamil Nadu, Karuna Nidhi.
Hmm,
Then must have come across names like Vidya Nidhi, Kala Nidhi. Nidhi is the short form.
okay, and
So I mean that
talking about
boy's
the
name would have been something
mhm,
else, and everyone called him Nidhi. That's it.
talking about the plot and the part of Nidhi. So Nidhi returns to the village, returns to the slum with a transformation of a sannyasi. So what is that about?
Okay, what is that about? That conveys a very powerful message. He wants to come back to his roots.
Hmm,
Everybody wants to do that in the heart of hearts. Whether they can do it or not in their last days is a different issue. He is terminally ill, he knows it. He
hmm,
cannot go there in his normal form because immediately the cops will arrest him and the people will betray him. So, this
yeah,
is his way of coming there and sort of pointing to the world and pointing to the people that he wants to breathe his last uh, in his surroundings, which provide his roots. I mean, that is the kind of message I wanted to give, and I hope it's conveyed.
definitely it is. And Mr. Shridhar, what is the social message in general that you want to portray through the story?
I said that right at the beginning that I want to create awareness about how people live in the slums, how our society, though condemns slums, is, well, so totally dependent on the slums. And yet, how these people live such a good life. I mean, they are so happy with what they have, the kind of bonding, the kind of camaraderie that exists. I mean, that's the kind of message I want to convey. And that is exactly what I wish more people would go into the slums and see for themselves.
Okay, most of the audience watching this episode belongs to my age, which 20 between 20 to 30. So, in order to help these people improve their socioeconomic conditions, what is the one step that we can take uh, as the youth of this country to help them connect with the mainstream?
See, that's a question that, I mean, I really can't answer too well. And it's not really connected with the theme of the novel. But yes, they need to connect with the mainstream. I mean, I think more income generating education, job oriented education, more income generating schemes of self employment. I mean, these are some of the alternatives. But as I'm not an authority in that field, I really cannot say very much more. But you wanted to know about the characters in the novel.
Yeah, let's talk about the characters of my favorite my favorite part of the story is the love story between two people of different pasts. So what is that? Where does that go? Carol and Lakhan's relationship.
I mean, that is again a very common feature in the slum. In slums, the number of love marriages that take place across communities, inter-community, inter-religious, is phenomenal. And there
Hmm,
isn't that much objection to them as comes from the upper classes. In a middle class Hindu society will not take kindly to the boy or the girl marrying a Christian or a Muslim. But in the slums, that doesn't really happen. They accept.
hmm.
And I think circumstances also force them to. So this is a romance that builds up. And I mean, these two characters, I think, have come out fairly well to convey the message that these kind of marriages would work. But other characters that I've introduced are very typical of the slum. Like there is a character, Munelal, who is like
Hmm.
a news carrier. Like any information, any gossip, and he runs from one end of the slum or one person to the other, kind of so-called breaking news. I mean, these people are typical out there. And then you have people like whom I've mentioned, like Qureshi and Raja Dada and Stephen and Joachim Uncle. I mean, these are
Yeah.
community leaders. And community leaders is something fantastic, something unusual that I've seen in the slums. There are these people, maybe a little more educated than the rest, a little more knowledgeable than the rest, who really command the people, command in a good way. That is, they kind of solve disputes, they provide advice, people come to them in time of problems, they help solve the problems, and everybody listens to what they have to say. They're very well respected. And this is a typical characteristic of these slum areas, where they have these community leaders who are well respected. And then there is that other woman, Joji, I mean,
Mm.
who gets drunk and sort of dances on the streets and all that. Again, this is something very, very typical in a slum. You have these people getting drunk, illicit liquor, and then, sort of going gaga and going berserk. And again, the other thing, you have those gunda elements, keep having street fights. And I mean, that's again very common, gang fights and all that. But here there is one moral lesson to learn. Those people
Mhm.
can be reformed. You don't condemn them as antisocial elements, try to reform them.
Mm.
Try to drag them into the mainstream, try to counsel them, to educate them, to make them aware. And you succeed, as there are success stories mentioned here. Moreover, the root cause of all this, why boys and sometimes even girls get in, follow these rowdy paths of life and get into these antisocial activities. One, lack of education. Two, poverty. They earn money out of it.
Yeah.
So you said, how do you integrate these people into the mainstream? This is one
Mhm.
solution. Provide them with jobs, or okay, they may not get a 9 to 5 office job, but something that some income generating activity. This is where NGOs have to play a part. I don't even think the government can really or should do too much. But income generating schemes, something where these people have some activity and some mental engagement in the day, which brings in money. So they're not worried about food. They are free to I mean, they are not free during the day. They are busy. They're occupied. They don't have time,
Mm.
hanging heavy on their hands. They are not idle. Basically, this is one solution to the problem. Now, what happens is that this has to be brought in at the right time. Now, if you see the antisocial elements that I've mentioned, many of them are grown-up boys, who are adults.
Mm.
It may be a little too late to reform them. I mean, you can reform them, but it may be a little too late to reform some of them who have really got into that way of life, who don't like to work, because now they're used to easy money. But if at a slightly younger age, these sort of concepts can be introduced, it may, I'm not saying it will, but it may make a difference. That's my observation. I hope that's making sense to you.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. And we have seen these kind of instances happening. So, so also you mentioned the community leaders. So the character of Sanjeet Mhatre in this story, is he playing the role of the community leader?
Sanjit Matre is not a community leader because he's strictly not part of the community. He's an
Mm-hmm.
educated man and a retired teacher who is doing something for an NGO trying to educate these children, or
Mm-hmm.
trying to provide some kind of educational support. These things go a long way. I mean, people really feel that somebody is doing good for them. They start loving and respecting that person. When they start loving and respecting a person, automatically his views and his ideas count. So if you see in any time of crisis, his opinion is always sought. One, because he's educated. Two, because people respect him. And three, because he's seen the outside world. He hasn't been confined only to the narrow environs of the slum. And that's what it is. I mean, he is not a community leader, but I would say a very prominent part of the community itself.
I have a feeling that your character or you as a person is a reflection of, or I would say Sanjeet Mhatre is a reflection of you. Is that true?
Well, that's a compliment. And I really don't know how to answer that.
No, because
But
you mentioned that you have done community work in the
yeah,
slums when
I mean, the
you were into the,
community work that I was doing in the slums was related to education.
yeah.
Was running education projects for those children to help them study. And we
Mm-hmm.
did it with success rate. Now, of course, I don't do that anymore. Someone else has taken it over because
Mm-hmm.
because of my health and age, I really can't manage that now.
Yeah, but now I'm sure that Sanjeet Matre is in a way a reflection of you.
I don't know. Well, I don't know whether whether to say yes or no. But anyway,
So, Mr. Sridhar, are there any other important characters that we have missed which portray a strong message in the story apart from what we have spoken about?
well, there is Mariamma.
Okay, and what importance does she bring?
No, no, she's a nurse again, well respected,
Mm,
and again coming back to something that you found strange. Uh, Her daughter is raped by the stepfather, and the daughter commits suicide, but she
mm,
doesn't give up. And when Carol's father is in jail and there's no one to look after Carol, she goes and stays.
mm,
Of course, that's on advice of the slum dwellers, on advice of the community leaders, rather. She goes, stays with Carol, and looks after her like a mother. I mean, this
mm.
again shows the kind of connection, the bonding, how each one tries to be useful to the other.
Yeah,
Each one tries to be useful to another person in society. And there are many such characters like that. And then, of course, the other characters who show the other kind of shady things that go on, like
mm,
human trafficking.
yeah.
I mean, that lady Vimla is a human trafficker. So, there is human trafficking. Then, how the police go and threaten and exploit to some of these people. That's also common. So all these things, these characters really blend to make the slum come alive. I hope the audience enjoys it.
The audience will definitely enjoy it. And the novel seems to me like a movie material. And
Could
again,
be,
that's a compliment, but it really does.
could be. I hope some movie director spots it and takes it up. I mean, that's all I can hope for. Yeah, it could be movie material, and if it is also, it won't be so derogatory and derisive like Slumdog Millionaire. It is a totally different angle of the slum that can be portrayed here.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Sridhar, is there something important about the story that we have missed in this episode? You want to talk about it?
No, I think we've covered just about everything, all the angles. Now, I don't want to go deeper into these things, except one point, yes. I mean, there is a whole episode, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a chapter of a communal riot.
Okay.
When the city is engulfed by communal riots and people have gone mad, killing each other and burning each other's properties, this slum
Mm-hmm.
is a pocket of harmony. I
Yeah.
mean, here people of different communities come together to make sure that there is no harm done to a single soul. And how they organize that and how they do that, I think, is a moral lesson that everyone should learn. I mean, and again, thanks to the community leaders who get together and organize it. So all communities come together, feel that if anybody from the other community is harmed, is their own brother or sister who's harmed. And it
Mm.
shows a kind of bonding and camaraderie.
Yeah.
And I think that I shouldn't say too much more because then the audience will get the whole story and not want to read it.
Yeah. So
So
let's
I, I
put
hope
this
I
to the
haven't
audience.
I hope I haven't reached that stage where audience feel now we know enough about the book that we
Definitely
don't.
not. We have reached a stage in this podcast where the audience will definitely love to read more. And personally, I am very intrigued to read the story. I can't wait to read it. So,
Yeah,
audience, do read the story of Kushinagar. And yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Sridhar, for joining us today. And I
welcome. It
hope
was my
I wish
pleasure.
you, yeah, I wish you all the very best for the novel.
Thank you so much. Just one point: this book has been is under what you call republishing, and it's going to be republished and should be launched or available by early December.
Okay, so the book is being republished by Arushi Publications, New Delhi, and the
Yes,
readers can have it to their have it by the end of December month,
not end, maybe before that, early December.
early December. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Sridhar, for joining. Have a good day.
Welcome.